Welcome everybody to another edition of WCW 1994 as it's finally time for Spring Stampede as we're moving on for a huge pay-per-view, probably like the most stacked pay-per-view we've had in, honestly, in almost any of the series I do. This would be like a legendary card in real life if it actually happened, and this is just not me blowing some smoke up my own ass, but yeah, anyway, this is a real big show, but before we get into that, again, follow the link. YouTube channel census. Again, I just want to see what series people are watching, which ones they like, which ones they don't like, what they want more of the future, what they want less of the future. Not that complicated. It's 4 or 5 questions. It'll take you a couple minutes at tops, unless you just unless you get confused really easily. But just give it a quick look over. Answer the questions. Nothing that exciting. I already got like 20 odd responses, which is really good. But I just want to see any people who are regularly watching the channel just see what they really want. Because after all, this is what I'm only somewhat doing this for myself. But anyway, be back in just a second with the actual show. So yeah, we got 18,000 people in the beautiful Rosemont Horizon for Spring Stampede 1984, and we start out with our first opening match, which is a pre-show match, as in decent pre-show match. Marcus Bagwell, Shane Douglas, and Jordan Bad defeats Max Payne, Samoan Savage, and One Man Gang in 12:26 when Bad pins Samoan Savage with the Wild Thing. Decent back and forth match. Gets a 57. Bad gets a 62. Douglas gets a 45. Bagwell gets a 44. Gang gets a 55. Savage gets a 47. Payne gets a 57. Honestly, Bagwell's been sort of underpushed compared to where he was in real life. In real life, he was already like a mid-card tag team guy. Bad's been decently pushed, and these mid-card GTS's heels. The problem is I just have a lot of good heels already, so there's not much for these guys to do except job to baby faces. Get rebuilt on Power Hour and then job on Saturday night. Occasionally get a win on Saturday night. But anyway, just a solid win for the faces as they get a big win on pre-show of the pay-per-view. I move forward to an opening video going over the big matches of the show and narrated by Eric Bischoff, and this gets a 63 as we go over all the big matches, including Cactus Jack versus Rick Rude, Sting Pillman, Bret Hart, Davey Boy Smith, Ric Flair, DiBiase, and much, much more. And then we go to our opening match, which is in a decent match. Rockin Country defeated Vinny Vegas and Scotty Flamingo in 9:53 when Marty Jannetty pins Scotty Flamingo with a diving fist drop. This gets a 66. Armstrong gets a 59. Jannetty gets a 65. He's actually getting decently over. Scotty Flamingo gets a 55. Vinny Vegas gets a 45. And yeah, Vegas and Flamingo were both off their game. Flamingo didn't want a job, but too bad for him. Honestly, the Vegas and Flamingo's issues at the moment is I've got we've got a couple decent heel teams in front of them, and again, right now I'm overstacked with heels, so Vegas Flamingos this is sort of their ceiling at the moment. But hopefully I can figure out something for them to do on the mid card to keep themselves occupied. Anyway, this gets a 66, which is honestly better than I expected. And then post match, Rockin Country celebrate, do some air guitar, as the crowd cheers, and this gets a 51. Then we go into our next match, which is a really good match. It's a superb match. Steven Regal defeats Ricky Steamboat in 14:46 by submission with a Regal stretch after blatantly cheating. So I imagine he whacks him with some sort of scepter or something, or chokes him. Anyway, he somehow gets Steamboat down, and this I put this as a technical masterclass, which means this is a match that some indie wrestler in 2014 will post on Twitter as a forgotten classic, as these guys just do pure mat wrestling. It's mostly clean to begin with, but eventually Regal gets a little upset to see Mo's getting advantage, and he starts to cheat and poke the eyes and go low because he's Steven Regal. But in the end, Steven he locks in the submission, gets the big win. This gets a 75. Regal gets a 70. Steamboat gets a 78, and Regal's probably his biggest career win so far here in World Championship Wrestling. But a big win for Regal, and post match he celebrates to a 70. So yeah, Regal is a solidly if not for Austin holding US title, he would be in US titleville at the moment. But big win for Regal, and he celebrates as it gets a 70. I move forward to our undercard match, as in a fantastic heat and great wrestling, Vader and Sid draw with Hawk and Tsunami in 10:18 following a double DQ. And honestly, what this was this is just 4 guys kicking and punching the shit out of each other for 10 minutes until the ref calls for the bell. There's no time during this match that the ref is really in control. These guys just potato the crap of each other. Vader and Hawk probably just punch each other for real. Tsunami's tough as hell. Sid, and eventually the ref calls for the bell. And just in about 10 minutes, Sid gets a 74, Vader gets an 85, Tsunami gets a 71, Hawk gets a 67. Good stuff. Match suffered because enough not selling the show. Look, if you're watching this match and your complaint is there's not enough selling shown, you don't understand professional wrestling, my friend. Anyway, solid stuff, and then post-match, they continue to brawl for a 70. So, good stuff. Then we have our next match, which is about that fantastic heat and great wrestling. Steve Austin defeated Scott Steiner in 13-11 by pinfall with a handful of tights. I mean, he hits him with the title, he holds the tights, he does a variety of things. As Steiner just suplexes the hell out of him, Austin fights back from underneath. Eventually, he hits a stun gun, but Steiner kicks out. But Austin, gets a little creative, whops him with the title belt, rolls him up, holds the tights, and retains the U.S. title. This gets a 75, Steiner gets a 67, Austin gets a 77, and yeah, Austin is quickly developing into a real star for me. And post-match, Austin celebrates to a 68. So, fun stuff. And then, in a tag title match, which is frankly a lot lower on the card than I thought, mainly because we had some signings and other stuff going on. But in about that, great heat and good wrestling, Arn Anderson and Barry Windham defeat Scorpio and Simmons in 13:53. When Arn pinned Scorpio with the Spinebuster, Arn and Barry win the World Tag Titles. So again, back and forth match. Obviously, Arn and Barry do Horsemen thing, so they cheat on the outside, they hold the ropes, Barry gives Arn some help on a abdominal stretch, hot tag for Scorpio and Simmons, but in the end, Arn and Barry are just a little bit better. They're both classic tag team wrestlers, and 1, 2, 3, they pick up the tag titles for the Iron Horsemen. Windham gets a 69, Arn gets a 73, Simmons gets a 73, and Scorpio gets a 62. Good stuff. And post-match, and like I said, overall, it gets a 79, and post-match, Arn and Barry celebrate with their tag titles, which gets a 74. Good times. And then we have, after David Boy Smith comes out, we have Bret Hart making his first official entrance for his first match in WCW, and it gets a 74. Again, go bring up Bret Hart's WCW music. It's not his WWF music, but it's still solid stuff. And then we have the actual match, which is an exceptional match. Bret Hart defeats the Bulldog in 21-12 with a fast roll-up. This gets an 81. Honestly, this is just their in-your-house match in real life from 95 without the blading. But in the end, Hart is just a little, he's the excellent execution. He's a former world champion, and so's Bulldog, but Hart's Hart, and he's able to, get a sort of crucifix victory roll type thing going on, and Bulldog kicks out at 3.1, but it's just that much too late, and Bret Hart gets the big win in his WCW debut. Hart gets an 83, Bulldog gets an 80, and good stuff. And overall, like I said, 81, and Hart celebrates afterwards to a 68. And then, in the next big match, an exceptional match, Sting defeats Brian Pillman in 12:50 by submission with Scorpion Deathlock. Sting makes defense number 1 of his international title. This gets an 82, Pillman gets an 82, Sting gets an 81. This is just a pure spot. Not quite a spot fest, but this is just all action. I set this as 13 minutes just mainly because I need time for other matches, but also just, I wanted this to be, we just got off, a 20-minute classic with Hart and DiBiase earlier, and we had a scientific match, and this is just two guys throwing bombs right from the start. One goes from the top, almost from the start, and fine drop hit. Sting comes back, Stinger splash. But, Pillman has tried to defeat Sting twice. He's gotten close each time, but Sting's still the franchise, and although Pillman may be a future megastar here in professional wrestling, he's not quite there, as Sting's able to lock in the Scorpion Deathlock, and with nowhere to go, Pillman has to submit, as Sting retains the international title. So he'll be one half of the main event at Slamboree for the new Unified Championship, as this gets an 82, like I said, and Sting celebrates with the title afterwards to a 74. Then, in our next match, which is also an exceptional match, Ric Flair defeats Ted DiBiase in 1946 by pinfall. This gets an 83. So again, if this was, if the Sting, this is just an old school mid-80s NWA style match. So, couple suplexes, but mostly chops, punches, fighting. Both guys cheat because it's Ric Flair and Ted DiBiase. DiBiase goes for the pile driver, but Flair gets out of it. DiBiase goes for the big fist drop from the second rope, but Flair gets out of the way. Flair fights back with chops, hits a big superplex from the top, goes up top, hits a flying crossbody. DiBiase rolls through, but Flair kicks out, and then Flair's able to roll him up in a sort of small package, 1, 2, 3, to pick up the pinfall victory and a huge win. And did get the big win. Honestly, he should have got Super Raw, but he got injured. As this gets an 83, Flair gets a 91, DiBiase gets a 77, and post-match, Flair celebrates to a 68. And now for the main event of the evening. Which, honestly, was slightly disappointing. They didn't click, which is unfortunate, but still, not bad at all. And about that fantastic heat and good wrestling, Rick Rude defeats Cactus Jack in 1358 by pinfall with a Rude Awakening. So, if you notice there, it's clean. I mean, it's not completely clean because it's Rick Rude. Sherri Martel gets involved distracting Cactus, but in the end, Rick Rude, it's his time. Like, Jack's been a really good champion. He's been a surprising champion. But after a reign of about 6 months, it's time for him to give up the ghost. And Cactus Jack fights and fights and fights. Rick Rude, honestly, he is the better wrestler. Like, Cactus Jack may be he may have the bigger heart. He may be the better fighter. Rick Rude is the better professional wrestler, and he drops Cactus with the Rude Awakening in the middle of the ring, and with no order to go, 1, 2, 3. Rude becomes the WCW Heavyweight Champion. 80, Cactus gets to 71, Rude gets to 70. Like I said, they didn't click. And then, post-match, Sting, Rude celebrates with the title, and then Sting comes out with his title, and there's a stare down as Tony, Ventura, and Dusty all put over. It's going to be Rude and Sting one more time for the Unified Championship at Slamboree, and we can pre-book that right now. Yes, with both titles on the line, baby. So overall, the show goes, it's an 82. Okay, so not our greatest show ever, but really good show. So honestly, I want to call out Regal I'll give Steamboat some props for having a great performance. We'll give, let's see, who else? Okay, I'll give Ron Simmons some props because he was great in a match better than expected. And honestly, Pillman gets some props for, there we go. Let's see what the post-show stuff is, and then we'll go over the roster just like to see where we are at this point. And then after we go over the roster and everything, I'll see if we're just going to go to the next set of shows or if we'll end this out. Honestly, this will probably be a shorter video than normal just because I don't want to start the build right after this. I want to let this sort of settle in. But let me just load up, get some email, and see what happens here. Okay, emails. Okay. Yeah, good stuff. Any other? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Feedback again. So again, to go over our titles, World TV Champion is Jacques Rougeau. He's not injured anymore, but he's been champion for 45 days. World Tag Champions, your new ones are Arn and Barry. Let me look at Arn real quick. Title history. Okay, so this is his 5th title reign for Arn, 5th title reign, tag title reign, and for Barry, this is his 3rd tag title reign. Interesting, and 5th overall because of the title with Rotundo. Your U.S. champion is Steve Austin, 57 days since he beat Slaughter for it. Your international champion is Sting, since he beat Bulldog for it. And of course, your new world champion is Rick Rude. So huge, really big stuff. Storylines, which obviously will be, I don't want to go to those. Creative: Sting, Flair, Rude, Pillman, Hart. Good stuff. Next big things, nobody yet. Hot prospects: Bagwell, Flamingo, Scorpio, Savage, Douglas. Okay. Talk to Stock: Flair, Ventura, Dusty, Rude, DiBiase. Showstopper: Sting, Pillman, Steamboat, Flair, Hart. Ring generals: Flair, Steamboat, Sting, Bret, Arn. Who's hot? Sting, Windham, Bulldog, Flair, Austin. Who's not? Nobody. Good stuff. And now let's just go over our roster real quick. Merch sales, just so you guys can see. So far, Flair, Sting, Bret, Bulldog, Slaughter, Dusty, Hawk. Dusty, Slaughter with that made in the USA. Okay, honestly, I did not look at this merch sale before I did that segment during the last build-up with Slaughter selling shirts. Okay, I did not realize he was... Okay, that's actually hilarious. Anyway, but let's just go over our roster real quick, see if anybody's made some really big pop gains or anything. So, major stars. So, let's start with Arn. So, he was... Okay, so... At the start of the month, he was at mid-70s. He dropped a little. Okay. So, yeah, he's about the same. Not bad. Barry, okay, Barry hasn't really bounced back. He's still basically the same as he was when he started. But again, they both beat a lower ranked team, so that's not a surprise. Vader, let's look at Vader. Okay. Vader's dropped a little bit, not as much as you'd think, considering how many times I dropped in the Cactus, but he's not he's still solidly over though. And yeah, not a huge shame. Okay. Now, Bret Hart. Okay, so Hart is got a slight boost in some places, not everywhere, but not bad at all. He went from a yeah, he gained a point in some places, but not huge. Pillman. Yeah, if you notice, like, all our people are hanging around, like, these low 70s, high 80s, or low 80s, high 70s stuff. So, yeah, about the same as he was. A Cactus Jack. Did Jack lose a... Yeah. And here's the other thing for Jack. Like, Jack never got as over as it needed for him to be a long-term champion. Like, you know, he's obviously, like, did real good. This might be his pop cap as well. But yeah, honestly, yeah, actually thinking about it, like, he beat Sid twice. Yeah, this might be his pop cap, unfortunately. And if you look at his contract, like, see, an interesting thing is, okay, the reality is, Cactus's story is kind of done. Like, he got his world title ring, he got his big win over Vader. There's not really much for me to do with him here in WCW anymore. Like, an honest thing might be to do is to let him go off to WF or somewhere else and see what they do with him. Because, like, I mean, I love Cactus to death, but, like, I sort of done circling. Like, I did the comeback, I did the Vader, I did the, you know, Mrs. Foley's, the surprise world title win, keep him there for longer than you think, you know? I mean, you know. And also, just honestly, at some point, like, you know, you can't keep everybody and keep them pushing. Well, hello, AEW. Dustin Rhodes, of course, didn't have a match tonight, but whoops, we should get back in popularity. So yeah, he dropped a little bit, but we can rebuild him quicker, and we have some plans. Okay, yes, I know, Dusty. Ric Flair. So obviously, Flair begins way too over in the Mid Atlantic. Like, I get what mod makers are trying to do when they make him this over, but like in WCW in 1993-94, he's not going to say that over. But, like, yeah, a big win over DiBiase, and now he's, like, basically back to being the man. Rude. Yeah, Rude. Okay, I mean, interesting is that he actually dropped a little bit despite winning, which is interesting. That seems weird. Is there anything else going on? Like, let me just see here. No, I mean, he... Huh. That might be a weird pop cap thing. That might be just the vagaries. Yeah, that's interesting. Simmons, who is more over than you'd think for me putting him in a mid-card tag team. And yeah, look, he just keeps on getting more over and over. Like, I might have to, like, put him in, like, a US title feud, but near the end of the year. Sid is Sid. Yeah, I mean, he was most over, of course, when he was beating Sting twice, and, like, he did the job at, you know, at Starrcade like a good guy. And yeah, he's been getting slightly less over, but, you know, we can rebuild him pretty easily. Steve Austin. Steve Austin's now one of our most over heels. Like, if you look, like, yeah, he's slowly getting everywhere, and, like, yeah, he's, like, I mean, he's honestly, like, he's outpacing Arn at this point, and even Barry, and even in some places, like, Pillman and Austin are actually ahead of Arn and Barry, even though, like, in the Iron Horsemen, quote-unquote, like, they're still sort of the leaders. Like, Arn's still a leader, but, you know, how long are these guys going to want to be, you know, play second fiddle? Sting is Sting, you know. Sting, of course, was really over at this point, but, you know, we can rebuild him. He has a big world title match, you know. And then, of course, DiBiase was getting real over, especially after him debuting, got some wins. But he dropped back down from losses, but he's still, like, quite over. And, of course, Bulldog, who's sort of randomly turned it into a project, is still quite solidly over, especially after a really good match with Bret Hart. So, there you go. Now, if we look at stars, so we got Chris Benoit, who has been slowly, like, gaining popularity, but he dropped a little bit, mostly because it was on the pay-per-view. But he and Ian are still a solid team. Rougeau, of course, hasn't been able to wrestle on TV for a couple weeks since he got injured, and it was at the time of our taping. But he's still the TV champion, and yeah, he's still a solid mid-card guy. Road Warrior Hawk is not as over as well, he's over in us, but he just hasn't the perception. So yeah, I mean, but he's been slowly getting more over. Yeah, so that's interesting. Slaughter, of course, you know, this is what you call somebody to leech some pop from. Like, yeah, if you don't think all of the mid-card heroes are getting big TV wins over Slaughter in the next 6 months or so, you've got another thing coming. We got Steven Regal, who, yeah, Regal, big wins, solid win over, yeah, over Steamboat, so he's getting there. And, of course, Tsunami, who has had, because he's gotten, yeah, I mean, the draw, the losses, like, yeah, I mean, honestly, this is probably way too over for where he was in real life. But, you know, I mean, he can, what's what I'm looking for here? Yeah, he's also still working for New Japan, so there's that as well. But if we just look at his WCW stuff, so yeah. Like, yeah, I mean, he hasn't been terrible. Like, he did the job to recruit at Starcade, but in '94, like, he's gotten mostly wins. Like, the only big losses they've had is versus the Iron Horsemen, and honestly, yeah, and versus Arn and Barry at Super Bowl. So on pay per views, they basically lose. But what can you do? So we go down to well known. We got Scorpio, who's in the high 50s now, and that's basically we've been slowly building him up, so that's good. JW Storm, who's injured, but I think is back as of, let's see here. If we look at his personal, no, it's skills. Yeah, he's back in 4 days, so we'll see, if Hammer and Storm will return, or we'll do something else with them, or what's going on with that. Johnny B. Bad. Oops, that's his match history, not his popularity. That's not what you guys care about. Yeah. Bad's slowly getting more over, so there you go. Marty Jannetty. Getting shockingly a lot more over than I thought he would. Like, I honestly got the art, like, yeah. Ricky Steamboat is sort of like the one guy who I've totally killed. Like, I admit, like, I've killed it. But, I mean, honestly, like, Ricky Steamboat in 1994, like, I love him to death. But, like, this is sort of his spot. Like, at least until I can find, like, a young guy for him to team with. The problem is, like, he hasn't had any good chemistry with anybody. So, yeah, and then there's just, like, the quest of trying to find young guys to pick up who are actually over at all. Because, like, yeah, we can't put, like, a 20 over guy on TV regularly and expect him to, like, get over. Steiner is not as over as I thought he was. And honestly, it's, like, that's not even, like a in-game thing. That's just, I mean, yeah. I mean, it's not, But, like, yeah, I mean, he's really good in ring. Like, he got a 75 out of nowhere with Austin. So, like, yeah, he'll be a solid part of the roster. Flamingo, like, yeah, I mean, he's not going to be happy about it, but, like, look how over you've gotten, like, a year, Raven, so quit complaining. Barbarians, both Barbarian and Warlords are sort of guys. Like, I had that initial push for them, but as you can see, they're sort of, like, drop to the stars' faces. And if we go down to recognizable, we've got Bobby Eaton, who of course is, dearly departed Bobby Eaton, who's like sort of swings back and forth. Like near the end of the year when he and Ben Waller getting the real strong push, he was like getting quite over. He's dropped down a little bit, but like he can be rebuilt pretty quickly. Brad Armstrong, who of course was injured for a while, but I'm slowly building up to be decent. Jenny is pulling up. Marty Jannetty is pulling up to relevance, no matter how hard Brad fights against it. DDP, I just recently signed. If we don't look at his match history, like, yeah, he's had a weird match history because, like, I didn't pick him up, like, WCW in real life. So if we look at his career here, like, he teams King Kong Bundy. He faced the insane, look at this 6-man match. George South, Tito Santana, Paul Orndorff, defeated DDP, King Kong Bundy, and Don Kernodle. That is a main event in any high school gym in North Carolina area. Then we had DDP defeating John Rambo. Yeah, fun stuff. 1994, same stuff. Yeah. Okay, so that's an interesting main event. Junkyard Dog and Rock and Roll Swole defeating DDP and the Texas Hangman in independent wrestling from Baton Rouge. Okay, so I got to give this for the game. If you're having an independent show in 1994 and that's your main event, you're probably going to go do decently. But yeah, fun stuff. But yeah, DDP's in here. I bring him in as a babyface, mainly because we need more babyfaces, and that's something I'll go over in a second here. Marcus Bagwell. Honestly, he's been sort of Like, yeah, I mean, he's getting slowly over, but, not as over I need. Max Payne is a guy, oops. Yeah, he had 3 wins, 10 losses. You can and as compared to 1983 when he had 16 wins and 7 losses. And you can sort of see that, yeah. But if we take back out, his first, I don't know, a few months here. So, yeah, he basically turned into a jobber to the stars in, the fall. One Man Gang, again, he's somebody who's just brought in the job for the most part, which is why he's losing popularity. Well, I might let him go soon enough. Shane Douglas is somebody else whose skills are not that bad, but like, I don't know. He hasn't like been that impressive in the ring, and I haven't had anything that great to do with him yet. So there we go. Terry Runnels, I also just hired. She'll be coming as a manager. Vinny Vegas, not bad. Like, he has that weird thing where he's over in some places and not at all, so it's going to take a while for him to catch up. Then if we look at people who are unimportant, we got basically a whole lot of nobody. Like, Van Hammer is still not important, despite me kind of trying to push him. Like, he's had a decent run the past couple months. So yeah. As a quick thing, I've reorganized my dev territory, so they now have a weekly house show since the TV shows got all let go. And if we go to them real quick, WCW show, there we go. So if we look at their show history, so their most recent show had a Larry Santo defeated Danny Cass, Rick Thames defeated Brian Anderson, Bob Cook defeated Buddy Lee Parker, Johnny Gunn, Robbie V, and Iceman King Parsons defeated Mufasa Sid and Texan Shanghai, okay? And Joey Maggs and Bill Orton defeated Chris Walker and Mike Thor. So yeah, these are literally just matches to give my jobbers some in-ring time, and so they're not taking room on my roster, to be completely honest. Again, so just as a quick check, just because this is about it for the actual show, I just want to go over a couple more things with you. So, what is WWF doing? If you notice, they lost Bret Hart, so they are doing some. Okay, so they still have Hogan, they still have Savage, they still have Taker, they still have Mr. Perfect, even though he's injured, and they still have even Razor Ramon. But if you look at their last big show, so we had the Berserker going over Typhoon. We had Shawn Michaels defeating Virgil. Nasty Boys defeating Demolition, but the Crush version of Demolition. Rick Martel defeating Rick Steiner. The Undertaker defeating Brutus Beefcake. Yokozuna versus Tatanka for the IC title, which got a 67. We had Lex Luger and IRS defeating the Outlaws of Jim Duggan and Hulk Hogan in 82. And the main event was Bossman defeating Lawler to retain the U.S. title. Okay, I mean, you're like, okay, that's a little weird, but it could be worse. Okay, let's look at Mania. I mean, Bossman and Luger was actually 91, but you had Yokozuna defeating Duggan in 76, Razor Ramon defeating The Undertaker, and Hulk Hogan not even on the show. And again, if you look at, let's look at stables. Let's see here. Whoops. Stables. So yeah. At some point, again, if we look at the roster, Hogan's still a babyface. But yeah, if we look at, okay, so we got Randy Savage, who he's out injured with a dislocated knee. So if we look at him real quick, he's out for 49 days. Okay, and he's been out since February. And if you notice, he's been putting out some friggin' bangers. And Mr. Perfect, who of course was previously the champion. If we look at him, he's out for another 27 days. And he's been out since basically. Okay, so he got injured in a title match versus Hulk Hogan, which is hilarious to me. And then again, if we look at the title, so Mr. Perfect had the title. He lost. He had to vacate because he got injured. Then Bossman defeated Yoko for it. And yes, when Yoko, Lawler, Luger, Lawler. IC champion's been Yoko. Since he defeated, but before that was Duggan, Martel, Slaughter, Michaels. Tag titles have been the Nasty Boys. It was, Nasty Boys, Demolition, Steiners, Money Inc. But yeah, that's about it. And if we look at some tag teams, we've got Breakout, which is Brawl and Knight. Okay, we got Criminally Insane, which is Papa Shanko and Mike Sharp. Okay. Payback, which is Jim Powers and Barry Horowitz. Power Connection, which is Bossman and Duggan. Team Explosion, which is Brinzel and Moon. And then your normal guys you expect. And yeah, if we look at the people who are gone, news for WWF. So if you look at people leaving, so yeah, Bret and Scott left, and who if any have they replaced now? Let's see here. Nobody. So yeah, they're not in the best place. I mean, they're still first in the world, but like, yeah, that seems interesting. Let's see here. What else would anybody else care about? New Japan is up to big size, and if we look at their tag, like, World Heavyweight Champion is Chono. Tag champions are Hawk and Suzaki. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that people would be interested in at all that I noticed. I don't think so. Like, I mean, this is kind of a dead time in real life, outside of. Oh, here we go. Hold on. Let me see here. Looking for Smoky. Yeah, Smoky Mountain still exists. And their beat champion is Brian Lee. Robbie Eagle and Charlie Smash had it previously. Heavyweight champion is Bobby Eaton, of all people, who defeated Pritchard for it, and he's been feuding with Robert Fuller over it. Tag champions are Reno Riggins and Scott Armstrong, and U.S. Junior Heavyweight champion is Brian Armstrong. And if we look at their last big show, so yeah, Blue Guys Brawl 2. We had Bobby defeated Tom Pritchard for the title in a 72. Joey White Boy defeated Bob Armstrong. Jim Golden defeated Reno Riggins. Brian Lee defeated Robbie Eagle. Dutch Mantel defeated Chris Candido. And yeah, interesting stuff. Like, mostly the same roster as real life with some interesting additional people. And they're also losing money, so there you go. Just like real life. But yeah, I think that's it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Like, this is a really big show. And obviously, like, the debut of Bret Hart is a big deal. Sting retaining the title, Rick Rude winning the title, setting that much up. And, Flair getting the big win over DiBiase. And so now we're just on this, we're sort of in that part of WCW where it's big show after big show. So it's, after this, it'll be Slamboree, then Bash at the Beach, then a little break, and then, Fall Brawl, Havoc. So that'll be fun to do. But that's it for now. So if you enjoyed this, go to give it a like. Comment below what you're liking and not liking, and subscribe to your channel for lots of TEW 2020 content, including this series, my WCW 2004 series, which is heading towards the second edition of Sacrifice, and I just posted the where I booked the WWE in that game, where we just did WrestleMania 20 with a very different main event than real life. We've got WWE 2013 with, of course, the random number generator giving me various goals, including pushing Darren Young, and my MLW 2006 series where Fusion is now on Univision, and lots of other stuff. But that's for now, so talk to you later, and adios.